Great to have you on the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing amazingly. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be hosted on one of your slices.
Yeah, I'm so excited. This is your first time coming on, so what I usually like to do with first time guests is first tell me a little bit about your role at EverC, and then give us a quick overview of EverC if people are just learning about the company on this episode.
Sure, sure. Thank you for that. I guess so. I'm the CEO of EverC. We are a mission-driven, RegTech company. We are a risk intelligence platform for the global digital commerce. We focus on merchants and then product insight to automatically intercept illicit activity at scale. Just talking about me briefly. So born and raised in Israel. In the late 90s, I joined the Naval Academy and spent almost a decade over there. From there, did accounting and law school in Israel, MBA at University of Chicago, short stint doing M&A investment banking on Wall Street. From there, quit that to join the amazing ride of WeWork. Around 2017, left that, it was about time to move on. Left that, started to invest and advise startups, so invested in the CRSAs. EverC is a company I invested back in 2018 when I was still in the city, in New York City. Roughly around about 4 years ago, got back to Israel, and the opportunity presented itself to supercharge EverC to the next level. And that's about it. And apart from this, father of four, which takes a big part of our lives.
So what drew you in? Like that's pretty cool. It's not like something I've never heard before, right? I hear actually there's multiple examples where someone invested in the company only to later decide to, steer the ship. What drew you in to want to be CEO after making an investment years before?
I think that when you get to understand the business and the industry, first, the industry is fascinating, especially this these days with everything that is happening. But as a mission-driven company, I think that in life, if you can mix, if you can bind, passion and mission with a solid business, you got the holy grail from that perspective. So when I invested in the business, I have as an investor, you do the underwriting and you have the vision of where it can go and all that jazz, right? And then when I got back to Israel, it was an opportunity to actually take, what was built and supercharge it to the next level. What happened since my investment and, coming into this, when I invested out of the family office in 2018, little I know that COVID will break. And when COVID broke, there was a lot of things that changed, right? So all the mom and pop shop, on the high streets or, on whatever, on the streets, right? You got to have an online presence. So you have an influx of people, coming online because otherwise you're not going to have a business. Everyone is, stays home, right? The other things that, underwriting the deal coming into this, I didn't know anything. I didn't foresee that Gen AI is going to come, right? And everything that we see can tell you as a CEO, every day, every week, there's something new coming. And then you trying to understand, what does that mean for my business, right? What is this deep research? Now it's deep seek, what is deep seek? The cost is changing. So from my perspective, again, being a mission-driven business, was something that was, very, very important for me and fulfilling. And to build something transformational when actually the market is, pushing to that direction. The second piece, I would say that, we are enabling growth for other businesses, which is always exciting to see that the work that you're doing, not only the impacting from a fraud perspective, but you see the other businesses flourish. So, uh,
Now, how would you say that EverC differentiates itself within this risk intelligent management space?
First, we took coming into this, we took a tech first approach. So, when you think about the fraud and compliance industry, it started from human driven, right? And it started from, rule based. We took the approach of technology first. And with that, we built a solid infrastructure that, can scale, could be automated, can actually navigate the different complexity that you have in our space, right? We built a very unique identity graph. So what you see in the industry is that usually the fraudster are not going to come to Jared and say, "Hey, Jared or Mr. Processors, I'm a fraudster. Can I start processing?" It doesn't work this way. So you need to be able to peel the layers, right, and understand who is the Jared behind. And it's not only this, because Jared most times will be a solid, like, a legit person, but maybe Jared is a friend of John Smith. If I have a red flag on John Smith, I have a red flag on Jared, because tell me who your friends are, I tell you who you are, right? So with the identity graph that we build, actually you have the ability with billions of nodes and edges, right, to see who is connected all over the world. Now, in a world that, in a small global village, when the fraudster on one side of the world tomorrow is on the other side of the world, when the fraudster on one platform is on a different platform tomorrow, you got to be able to untangle the kinks or unfold, what he's seeing, out there. So that's, the second thing, having a unique and proprietary data set and the infrastructure that can take you to speed and scale and accuracy like, we've never had before, and that analysts cannot get from a volume perspective.
When we think of it from like the fintech side of things, like what specific problems would you say EverC is solving as it relates for banks, financial institutions, payment service providers, and also these e-commerce platforms?
Our platform is essentially two main products. On the one hand side, we have merchant view, everything you need to know about the merchants, from onboarding to monitoring, transaction laundering. The ICP, the ideal client profile for something like this, for this product, is acquirer, processor, buy now, pay later, the schemes, right? Fintechs, and the like. Essentially, you help them, all the way, everything is related to the merchants, right? From, the other side of the platform, once I entered your virtual store, right? I want to walk in and check your shelves, right? What's on the shelf, right? So product level classification, that was the next evolution. Like, can you sell, this headpiece, right? Can you buy it in France and ship it to Germany? So essentially enforcing and monitoring the AUP, the accepted user policy, making sure that, there's nothing that contradicts, what the AUP. And second, making sure that there's no illicit activity, illicit products, or anything like that. The ICP are marketplaces, and that makes a platform. On top of this, now with as technology is changing, and probably on the podcast, everyone is talking about AI, but the ability to innovate and to prototype, you could do things within days. You can see if it works. Now, once your base is solid with like solid clients, we're a B2B enterprise and we serve in large enterprises. Now, with the new technology, we're going all the way down. So if our main clients are the biggest names that you can, with the new prototype, say, hey, I have this. Is that of interest for you guys, right? And then you can find like new thing that could be relevant for the clients. Not only again mentioning that we're going all the way downstream, because with the technology today, stuff that used to be very operationally complex, right now you can do it fairly easy.
Can you talk me through a little bit maybe of some of who your core or key partners are and clients, anyone that you can mention on the show here today, and how they're helping shape EverC's strategy?
Sure. So from that perspective, we have the partner who invested in the company. So we raised, around $100 million to date, right? Our investors are very diversified from their skill set and from the domain expertise and from geographical, distribution. So American Express Ventures invested here. Viola, one of the biggest, investment houses in Israel, invested here. Nika and Hans Morris invested here. Red Dot Capital are, based in Israel, but, biggest LP is folks from Asia, right? Asia Pac. And so those, help you with opening doors, thinking about, the domain and things like that. From a client perspective, on the merchant fee side, as I mentioned, again, those are the largest financial institutions and acquirers and processors. They're like of JP Morgan, they're like of American Express, and a lot of other big names that very, very familiar names. On the marketplaces side, you have the biggest marketplaces in the States, the eBays of the world, and there's actually a lot of European marketplaces, as the regulation there is stricter than even the States. So it's from the investor base, you have the domain expertise and the distribution, the graphical, and from a client perspective, we are all over the world. So we are 70% roughly. We started 100% North America. We're now 70% North America, but we are 30% all over the world. We are in Europe. We are in Asia Pac. We are in China. We are down under in Australia and New Zealand, and keep expanding and growing the footprint all over the world.
When you think about what success looks like for EverC throughout the rest of 2025 and beyond, what does that look like? And then kind of give me the different buckets, right? From product, impact, market expansion perspective.
Yes. So when AI was a thing, like, 3 years ago, we started to sort of like, play with that and see the different capabilities, right? So by now, all the models that are built in the company are supported by, the Gen AI and the models, right? What we're doing right now is implementing with the new technologies and with the new features and abilities, literally pop in the market on a daily basis. We are implementing AI across the company, meaning how do you do go to market now? If you want to go now long tail, right? How do you go to long tail in a way that makes sense? Meaning you push here, you get a Spotify. You push here, you get EverC. So you take in a system that is a very, very complex and heavy and serving the JP Morgans of the world, right? And now take it to the small businesses. So AI across the company will help you with go to market, with customer success, with going after the long tail, with a lot of things that now you can do fairly quickly, or at least to experiment. The other thing that we saw, and actually, if we're thinking about, we're talking about 2025, there's interesting things happening, right? So fraud is on a massive rise, where we see that scams, oh, wow. It's not only synthetic identities, transaction laundering, but now, what he's seeing, Jared, is he's seeing scams or storefronts. So from a KYB, from know your business type of things, right? You think that you're talking to Jared Flower Shop, but it's not Jared Flower Shop. There is actually something behind. So you need to be able to unveil Jared and say, hey, this is the reality behind. We saw that that was a big problem. We sort of like put together our expert, how can we solve this? And now we have a solution in place that we know we're going to expand that. Along the same lines, you see with tariffs, right? With all this trade wars, right? Actually interesting behavior because with 145% tariff on China, what you see from the marketplaces, when the Chinese marketplaces, they increase prices to offset, obviously. They reduce ad spend in the States, right? Because obviously they can sell less. And on the other side, you see an amazing rise. If you look on TikTok, you'll see the counterfeit industry pushing back and saying, buy directly from me. So you can see some of the call it like sports gear, some of the famous brands that from the States. If you buy this sweatpants or whatever for $100 in the States, you can buy it over there for $5-6. And you have massive amount of TikTok videos of like buy it from me, because the same factory sometimes manufacture to this, and on the other line manufacture sort of like a counterfeit or so that's something that we see, and we put in tools in order to fight this.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that. And obviously, having a platform like TikTok has amplified. Like, have you ever seen the shops where they just show items, like,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. No, that's
and
crazy what you see there. It's crazy what you see
and
there.
they'll sell so much of it. It's like they took the home shopping network and they're like, let's go as fast as we can, and they just like keep growing.
Yeah, yeah. So from an impact, you asked about the different different buckets, right? So from a product perspective, there's so much innovation coming. So we keep doing what we're doing. We're going downstream all the way, on the long tail. We're developing the scams and how do you unveil, the thing. What you see actually with the tariff and stuff, Jared, is that, crypto, with the new administration and, all the push to crypto, you see a lot of fraud, floating over there. So we're developing tools that, we'll see what's happening there as well, which is interesting. From an impact, at the end of the day, Jared, and we talked about mission driven, you're trying to make the world a better place, right? So what do? We catch the bad guys online. We try to make the world a better place. So that's the impact, the social impact, the tech for good impact that we're trying to do it from a market expansion. Again, where all of the world expanding more geographically, and increasing the international one. Again, essentially, when you're talking about the small global village, the advantage of being all over the world, actually pans out. It proves itself because you can see different trends, and you see stuff happening in the States versus stuff in China, Asia Pac, and you better equipped, to deal with the different challenges.
Interesting. I mean, it makes a bunch of sense. Before we wrap up, too, I want to just ask a couple of kind of fun questions as well. So my favorite question to ask people is, what's something that you can laugh about now, but when it happened, made you want to cry? When you were, let's focus on. I mean, it doesn't have to be just about EverC, but just even think throughout your career.
Well, As someone who was part of WeWork, there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about for 10 hours about, different things. But I think that, again, thinking about life, right, as someone who spent 10 years in the Navy, right, there's a lot of stuff like, holy shit, right? But we know when you look at this, in a retro perspective, that experience that I was like, crying, that was like a transformational experience. Like, who want to go to swim every day, 5 a.m. with your Speedo when it's cold, when it's rain or shine, right? But that experience teaches you resilience. That experience, teaches you like hard work, and you got to show up every day. It teaches you how to build teams, how to, win with the teams. But, when you're there and you're carrying all this weight and you're running and the this and the that, it looks like a crazy experience. When you do a WeWork, right, you have sort of like, cycles or like, so you live this and you're amazing, right? And that happened. And you look in a retrospective and you say, yes, some mistakes were done, but as you look at the overall experience, I think that the one question you should ask someone, knowing everything you know today, would you do it again? And the experience was transformational from seeing like 101, a crash course on hyperscale. How do you hyper growth? How do you grow something all over the world very, very quickly? And it goes on with, EverC. When you think about, when I started here, we were still in between the COVID waves, right? And, you was like, you start a job and, you're like, hey, I'm the new CEO. And you have like 130 boxes, on the screen. And Jonathan, okay, it like you're clicking in 5 pages, sliding, trying to understand what your employees like. How do you do this? So that challenge is today. You're thinking about this. I was like, oh, that was a unique experience, challenging, but, it was fun. So different times of life, different type of experiences.
I love it. I want to thank you again so much for joining me here today, telling us more about EverC and where you're heading, and making me smile a couple times too. That's always a great way to
So
start
much
the
good.
day. So thank you so much.
All right, it's good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Jared.